So, being an autodidact, which is someone who is somewhat self educated, so in that, it's someone who chooses their own subjects and the material and the rhythm and the time that I want to learn that material. And I think actually the nature of our existence is to be autodidacts, all of us. We just don't always give ourselves the permission. And I'm also a wannabe polymath. So, a polymath is an individual whose knowledge spans a substantial number of subjects, I suppose. And these people are known to draw on complex bodies of knowledge to solve specific problems or come to different ways of knowing. And I consider that to be a weaver. And this is what I'm attempting to do with my books and also with my practice and also in my life. It's really fun. And so my interests and modalities are vast and diverse and just like very eclectic and not to assimilate into like this big melting pot of, mush that you can't differentiate one ingredient from the other or one flavor from the other. It's like when you have too many flavors in a dish, you can't actually savor any one of them, but it's about the savoring of each and every one of them and then being able to see how they all complement each other when they come together. So in my books there are many cultures, many traditions, many not really belief systems. They all come to this core commonality of love and of connection, and how each and every one of us and each and every one of our experiences are just fractals of the whole. And so, knowing that, knowing that our existence here on earth really is to experience all the flavors of our particular experience, our particular journeys, really to bring back or to be part of that puzzle, part of that whole. So each part is unique and each part is necessary and needed and loved and wanted. Yeah, yet it is part of the whole. So before I wanted to record this little musing because before I get too like I actually have a list of modalities and ways of like different ways of thinking, different thoughts, different, I guess, wisdom schools or traditions or modes of accessing, our internal worlds or all of these things. I have this list that I continue to draw upon because they've been varying interests throughout my life. And so as I keep writing and as I keep exposing myself to everything in my environment, it's literally informing so much of my work, every single layer of it, every single piece of music I listen to, every single person I hear speak, every single wisdom school I read about, every word, someone might say, or a characteristic, a person might express, all of that stuff, our history, our current situations, all that stuff is informing the writing of these books, and my work. And so, this is not to scroll from one thing to another, but it's a process, right, that allows this expansion of knowledge and then of a understanding, like, when I'm ready and open to the next thing, right? And the next thing adds to what I understand, right? And so I'm never throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And always, always, every one of these little bits and pieces arrive at the perfect time. So this project and my all my projects, and in particular these ones that are sort of all encompassing right now. So again, my work, my which is my practice, as well as my books, they're led by passion and interest, which means that all it's like what me so it's like what matters at the time will be retained, right? And then it's put into practice, and then it's integrated as part of the healing, which means wholeness. It doesn't mean fix what is broken, because we're not broken. But just we sometimes experience disconnect, right? And this whole reconnection or this weaving is a recognition of what is already there, as parts of ourselves, of each other, and the totality of life. So these books and my work are meant to catalyze healing. And in myself, others, us as a collective, like as a human species, I guess. And healing just means to make whole. It's not that we're broken, right? It just means to make whole, that we don't realize the wholeness, the connections that are there, or possible, right? And I would say even further, to reveal our wholeness by feeling that connection, the weaving, by remembering. So this is how the people of Vale's Edge move through this healing, reconnection, and remembering in order to co-create their world and steward this great healing for those who, it's like a stumbling out of the Western realm, like out of a stupor, out of a deep sleep, a deep dreamless sleep, right? Like they just stumble out of there. And I just want to say too, that anything can become a poison if there's too much, right? Or taken at the wrong time. And everything can be a medicine. So to come to those, I guess, conclusions, or those, I would say some of them truths, or the commonalities, the things that, as I'm exploring all these different cultures and different people and aspects and all these different things, there's always this undercurrent of the whole, and undercurrent of love, and undercurrent of that connects all of it. So I'm just going to go through this. I might unpack this in another entry of this writer's diary. I don't know what I'm calling it. But I just want to name some stuff. And I'm actually kind of thinking maybe I shouldn't get into that because it's quite a list, and I'm going to want to get into some of them. But let's just see what happens with this unpacking. So here's what I have listed so far that are my running list of modalities and practices, medicines, and concepts for both this thematic content of my books and my work, and also informing the audio experience, the visual experience, actually. So this is informing all of that. And so here are the things that I have, being a wannabe polymath and an autodidact, that I have been exploring throughout my life, and even deepening now to inform this writing, this giant project I've I don't say it has taken on, it's literally taken hold of me. All right, so starting with this chunk that could be considered about the psyche, I guess. And so self-assessment and personal inquiry and self-inquiry, and digging into what the ego is, and archetypes and inner child work, and the subconscious and the conscious, and being conscious, and what consciousness is, consciousness studies. And also this communication piece of compassionate inquiry, how do we actually want to shift into communicating with each other in this more beautiful world? Nonviolent communication, exploratory conversation. And, the concepts of circling and philosophical fellowship and reframing and refocusing, and inner parenting ourselves, right? So some of those internal family systems, I guess, concepts and practices, ideas, and really seeing the multiplicity of each and every one of us. And that's okay, right? And even metacognition, thinking about our thinking. Some other things that I've been really interested in and embodying in this work is trauma release and somatic experiencing. Things like body talk, where we do we actually listen to the messages of the body through our nervous system and through muscle testing, I guess you'd say, or yeah. So I'm going to get to that and have more of those modalities or entry points later on. But yeah, so body talk and family constellation, right? How do we all show up in the field, and are we all present and accepted there? And how that family constellation, like, listen to that beautiful metaphor, writing that into the soul pods in my characters. And so court of atonement, which is putting our things out into and asking for help into the soul level, right? By getting past the limitations of the ego and really moving into what our soul seeks. And so the concepts of soul journey and our inner guidance system, where does our heart open and when does it close? And really leading by what we want to do and what feels right rather than what we think we should be doing. This is what happens in this more beautiful world. So there's breath work and breathing and cold adaptation and rewilding ourselves and ancestral lifestyle, right? Like nature and true deep nutrition, right? Nutrigenomics, so how that nutrition actually changes the structure of our cells, and then, in turn, the makeup of our bodies, and herbology and how we can connect with and communicate with and learn from the wisdom of these beings that are plants. They're beings, and phytochemistry and aromatherapy, right? And how they, again, teach us. Dieta, I do a dieta. I'm actually consistently on a dieta with cacao, with the cocoa bean, and it's a heart opener. And literally, whenever I drink my hot chocolate in the morning, I feel my heart open, and I'm connected in a way that the plant allows me to experience. So there's also epigenetics and lifestyle medicine involved in my body of, eclectic, I guess, knowledge, but hopefully coming to this point of understanding, right? Of feeling it. No, it's like, all of these things can become part of your just default, I guess. I always say, I use the word default a lot when I try to explain what it means to intellectually know something and to physically embody it. Right? It's just part of your being. And so, functional medicine was an entry point for me. But again, it's not the only thing. It was only one way to understand our physical existence, actually, our physical health and wellness. So functional neurology, right? Neuroscience and polyvagal theory, Stephen Porges' work, and brain-body integration, body brilliance, like the brilliance of the body. And just sometimes we just give it the right, and this actually may be all the time, the right energy, the right inputs, not right, the inputs that will give us energy, and then get out of its way. The body is brilliant. It's never wrong. And so heart math, right? This resonance, and this is what the people, this is what I want to help cultivate in this reality, right? But also in my books is this more beautiful world where people resonate and they can feel the heart math that actually already exists. There's already a communication going on between our hearts and also brain waves, right? So incorporating the whole, the knowledge about brain entrainment and brainwave states and actually experiencing those things ourselves, right? And having those experiences through the books and the audio versions of them. Biochemistry, right? This all comes into play. It's part of our physicality. We don't want to bypass that and just become these. My exploration is not becoming a different being entirely that's disembodied, but it's becoming what we could be in this embodied form by bringing this consciousness, this stillness, this presence back into our bodies. So I'm looking at and thinking about biochemistry and physiology and blood chemistry and even, functional lab work and what I learned about teaching that. And again, traditional Chinese medicine and the connection of all the organs and the emotions that are held in those organs and the release of them and the power that we can have even just by making a simple sound like Ayurveda, right? The doshas and German New Medicine, which is really mind blowing, Germanic knowledge, which is again, all of these things true. There are truths in them, but partial. They bring us to a certain point, some of them, sometimes needing to integrate and weave together other, like the next step with something else. Like, so with Germanic knowledge, what do we do about all that knowledge that, we can be physically affected by biological conflict shocks? Okay, so what do we do? What's the next step? And so all of these other things add to, what we do with the next step. And again, that's being built in this more beautiful world. So things like this, I suppose, like sound and music, binaural beats, right? Kirtan, chanting, singing, music composition, light and frequency. We are all bodies of light. And biofield tuning, we give off and we resonate with our world around us. It's all about the whole concept of the unique self in a symphony, right? And cymatics, and which is the visual interpretation of a sound, and imagery and visualization. These are things that bring us into a new state of being if we can first visualize it and affirm it. And yogic teachings they fit into this category, and meditation and mindfulness and gratitude, self-love and compassion, right? These are all fall in that category of love, really, connectedness. And then again, going back to the embodiment, body work, right? Movement, exercise, biodynamic movement, right? Ways to move the energy through the tissue, through our density, to shake up some of that density and move some stagnant energy so that we are just vibrant beings. Again, in this new world, this is what they teach, right? This is what they embody. This is what they are. Rhythmic movement and yoga, the actual practice of yoga, like the physical practice, as well. Of course, I already said yogic teachings. Tai Chi, Qigong, which are martial arts, and there are others as well, right? And the whole concept of focus and discipline, right? Like a dedication to grace and strength, but at the same time, not wasting that energy. It's like building up that chi that just allows you to be this expanded being, not reactionary, but responsive. And so there's reflex integration about how the brain and body, together actually affect the nervous system. And the Anat Banyal method, again, so similar concepts of Feldenkrais as well. And then block therapy, how the body can hold, again, those emotions and be able to, and knowing that the myofascial tissue can be released to, again, move those emotions. So touch and like I said, all these things are embodiment. And birth and developmental psychology, which is the most fascinating thing ever. Like our birth stories and like even fetal consciousness, right? And then body psychology. So what does this backache actually say about what's going on in my psyche, in my personal life, and the things I'm struggling with? It's like you could actually, people have mapped this out. So also very interested in this more beautiful world where we could be. This is all possibility, where some of us are to some degrees. Is more things like energy medicine and the emotion code and the healing code and emotional freedom technique. It's all about meridians and alignment and, thinking about things like the chakras, which is actually huge. It sounds very woo woo and new agey, yet it's huge. You see the chakra system show up in on the planet, in the solar system, the cosmos, in the human body. It's reflected in our density, our human body density, this thick density we have, our meat suits, which are our temples, really. I think that they're not to be debased. It's not a lower level. It is how we experience life. And so there's also consideration for medical intuition. And like I was saying, autonomic response testing or applied kinesiology, allowing the body to communicate through our nervous system what's going on, like not words, can't say anything, but it speaks to us all the time. And so there's consciousness-based healing or consciousness-based medicine, body consciousness, right? I already said body psychology. So extrasensory intuition. We have the capability, all of us, to do this, or we did, and we're relearning and reawakening these connections to these other planes, these other parts of ourselves, this other knowing. When we stop relying on the some other senses that are sort of just not as, I guess, deep. They don't go as deep. They can't see, or like we're actually reawakening parts of ourselves. It's like using 10% of our brain, right? We're using 10% of our senses, actually, maybe even less. I don't know. And so all that stuff is coming, becoming. We're reawakening into that in real life, like if we want to differentiate, as well as in these books that I'm writing. And so this conception and birth experience, like I said, very important. And I said fetal consciousness already. So I'm also considering and incorporating a lot of ceremony and plant medicine and homeopathy and homeopathic principles, getting right to the energetics, source frequency, and like sacred geometry. The fact that the entire universe, we can see the geometry of the universe, and these people can see that. Mandalas and labyrinths, and the importance of presence, and the teachings of those geometric or spherical, or not spherical, spiral, I guess, shapes and movements, deeper into the self, right? Where a labyrinth isn't, it's not a maze that you get out of. It actually, the purpose is to get to the middle, to the center. Isn't that cool? And so, considering quantum physics and quantum entanglement and cosmology, astrology, astronomy, internal sciences, wisdom traditions, eldership is so important. Like, the elders in this more beautiful world are revered and extremely important to their communities. And leadership, and they're pretty cool, actually, too. Well, the elders, this is not like about, our modern day culture that sees older people as obsolete and old and boring. This is entirely untrue, and the kids actually seek out the company of their elders. And leadership, in the mid years, like those parents and the people in that that generation taking up those leadership roles and coaching and mentoring, right? And in the work and the stuff they do in their communities, it's ethical. Like the business that they do between each other, the trade, the monetary or energetic exchange that happens is entirely different than what we experience in this Western culture. So entrepreneurship, right? And then I'm going to go back to like this yogic principles, all these other principles of, taking out the religion out of spirituality, because, well, the overlay of religion, because the depth, the true yearning that people have really is to like descend deeper into the principles and what ties all these things together, like Taoism and Buddhism and mysticism, which there are, the Catholic mystics, actually, the Christian mystics, and the Jewish mystics, and then there's the Buddhist mystics, and there's the Toltec principles and Kabbalist, and there's magic, right? Green witch, white witch, and there's mythology, right? There's the mystery, the creativity of creating this world, this more beautiful world that each of us has the power to do. So my experience with, leading creativity workshops and life writing and journaling, I had one person tell me once, who was in my seniors group, that she didn't know her life mattered until that class, right? Like she didn't know her life mattered. And and the people at Vale's Edge, they actually allow the people who come over from the Western realm to remember that, their own inner genius, their own mythology, the metaphor that is them, and their power that they have, not over anything or anybody, but within, to create more of that energy, the creation energy, right? And they co-create this more beautiful place, and they are integrated into that. They're healed, right? And not just by others, but actually ultimately are taught to heal themselves. So I talk about and explore even oracle and dream analysis and literature and poetry and dream yoga, and lucid dreaming. So all of these things cross-pollinate, and I love metaphor. That's a lovely one. And again, cross-pollinate and weave together to build this world, which is, I have to say, going to be a very beautiful and inspired challenge. Because I want, and I didn't put art, like, I didn't put art. I mean, like I said, I could just, I'm continuing to add and add and add, because there's so much richness in this life that somehow, to some degree, I would like to trickle in to the writing, whether it be expressly explored or just simply planted like a seed in the garden. So, yeah, that's it for now, unpacking all of these different modalities and teachings and wisdom streams and thought processes, I guess, that's leading to this world. And thanks for exploring that with me. I hope you like that.